Hello everybody, nice to see you again. So, as you probably know, today is the second webinar in our 2-week series, and today we're talking about the Aranet Cloud. So, so my name is Toms Rekšņa. I am the marketing director of Aranet. So for today's webinar, we had about 80 people registered. So quite a popular webinar, not as popular as the one last week. I guess the cloud is a bit more specific type of theme than just the general news, but it's still quite a lot of people. So hopefully you'll all be satisfied with what you see today. As always, the webinar will be available afterwards on our YouTube channel. So if you miss it, or if you want to refresh on some parts of it, you are invited to check it out. So what do we have planned for today? So today's agenda. I know that most of you are already Aranet partners for quite a while, and you already know what Aranet Cloud is, and quite a lot of you have probably tested already the Aranet Cloud. So I won't spend too much time, but I'll just go over and have a general introduction of what is the Aranet Cloud, what are the main applications, the main benefits, why do we even need a cloud. Then we're gonna talk about news, because we haven't had actually a cloud webinar for some while. I think the last webinar, if I remember correctly, was in February. So there has been a lot of development since then. So we're gonna talk about the news, and I'm gonna do a demo, and I decided to have both of those things kind of in parallel. So some things I'm gonna show on the slides, but most things I want to show at a live demo, so you can see for yourself how it works. You can get access afterwards yourself as well to play around in the demo environment. So yeah, and then we're gonna look at the roadmap. So what's planned for the near and actually also the far future, and we will save the Q&A for the end. So you can write your questions in the YouTube chat over there during whenever the questions arise, but I will address them only after the Q&A, because I don't see them right now. I will see them at the end of the presentation. So hopefully once I arrive at the Q&A, there will be a lot of questions for me to answer. And also different than typically, what we did this time is for the registration form, we also asked you, so what do you want us to talk about? And actually thank you very much to those of you who answered that question, because that was not a obligatory field to answer. So this actually really helped me in building the presentation, because I really understood what people want to focus on. So I think I cover most of the questions in this presentation. Not all, of course. Some were maybe not that related to Aranet Cloud. And for those of you that are interested in Aranet subjects that are not cloud related, we did do a webinar last week as well, and that is, I think it will be available relatively soon on YouTube as well. So jumping in, as already said in the last webinar, I kind of did a bit of a larger reminder of what is the Aranet system. So for here I have like only one slide, and I kind of presume you already you're familiar with the Aranet base station and Aranet sensor concept. So you have the base station that is receiving the data from sensors. Up to 100 sensors can be connected per base station, and quite different than other similar equipment manufacturers. Our base station already comes with, let's say, a lot of brains, so to say, with a lot of possibilities, because it comes with an inbuilt memory, it comes with free software, an inbuilt web server. So as you see on the picture on the right, you can very much, use it standalone for graphing, for viewing data, for exporting data, and that's all nice. So it already can be a complete solution without the cloud in certain situations. But of course, there are situations where it's not enough just to see the data locally, or to export the data, or just see nice graphs. And then that brings us to the Aranet Cloud. So essentially, the Aranet Cloud is a system. It is kind of a service, let's say, that allows you to actually connect to the base station from wherever you are, in the world, and you can, coagulate, get together a lot of base stations in one dashboard, and you don't have to, look at one base station software and then the other to compare. You have everything in nice, nice dashboards, everything in one place. So let's look at the Aranet architecture again. So this is a slide already showed in the last presentation, but this is a kind of a nice reminder to kind of visualize how is the whole Aranet architecture structured. So you have sensors that are sending the data to the base station, and you have to kind of understand here that in this case the communication between the sensor and the base station is unidirectional. So the base station is only listening and the sensor is only sending the data. However, the cloud allows for bidirectional communication between the base station and the cloud solution. So the cloud requests the data to the base station, and the base station provides it. So you have this unidirectional communication, and you get several base stations in essentially one service. So that brings us to kind of the main benefits of the cloud. So as already mentioned, so the main kind of thing is that you get multiple location support. So you can have sensors in different locations. You can have, for example, one greenhouse in even one country, and another greenhouse in another country, and you can get all of that data into one single ecosystem, no matter how far the data, no matter how far the base stations are physically from one another. Also, the cloud kind of facilitates the integration process. So if you have multiple data streams, so multiple base stations, you don't have to integrate each of them separately. So you can just do it in a single kind of dashboard in a single way. So we will talk about integration specifically in future slides. So other than that, it's just a very easy to use system. So it is quite straightforward. So how is it all structured? So we have accounts in the Aranet Cloud, and
and each person has its own account. So he registers there with an email and a password, and then you also have the organizational level. So the organization is that which groups together several accounts. And then to each of the organizations you can connect several base stations or just one base station. And that is the base station is essentially the device that accumulates the measurement. And then on the last level, of course, we have sensors that are capturing these measurements and sending them to the base station. So as you can see here by these lines connecting the people to the organization, you can have a single user using one organization, or you can have a single user at several organizations, right? So I can have my own account, and I could have access to different organizations. However, the base stations, they can only be connected to a single organization. So one base station cannot be connected to two organizations, which makes sense. And then, of course, sensors, typically they are each connected to their own base station, but you can also have the possibility to kind of connect one sensor to several base stations. So how do you start playing around with the Aranet Cloud? Well, first you register in the Aranet Cloud. Then you either create a new organization or join an existing one. Then you add your Pro base station to the Aranet Cloud, and I will show you how to do that. And of course, invite other people to join you. So other accounts, you can manage their accessibility, so whether or not they can only view settings, or they can whether or not they can only view the data, or they can change anything. So that all can be managed. So how do you register a base station in the cloud? So whenever you open up the cloud, especially on the first go, you will have this screen popping up there. So that will inform you of the email address and the code that you have to enter in the base station. So in the base station, if you have the latest firmware on top of the base station, you have in the services tab the possibility to go to the cloud tab and enter the email address and the registration code there, and essentially that will allow you to register the base station to the cloud. So then we go further on to what can be viewed in the cloud itself. So as you know, Aranet Cloud already now supports all of Aranet sensors and will support all of the Aranet sensors in the future. Once you connect that Pro base station to the cloud, even historical measurements will be uploaded. So if you have had the Pro base station for a while, and then you only add the cloud solution after some time, you can still get all of that history in the cloud. So and then of course, if something happens to your base station, you have like a nice backup, because your data will remain in the cloud even if the base station breaks down. And of course, you can export the data via CSV, so you can analyze it more in Excel. So I think this is a nice moment to actually go and look how the cloud looks and do kind of a demo of it together with the news. So let me switch my screen to the Aranet Cloud. So once you arrive to this aranet.cloud, you will be presented with the login screen, or either you register here. So I'm already registered, so I will enter. So now we already are greeted by my nice dashboard that I've already set up. Don't worry, I will actually show you today how to set up and how easy it is to set this dashboard up. If you log in your first time, you will probably see something resembling more like this. We also have now multiple dashboard supports, so you can actually switch between them. So, but let's look at what are the possibilities to kind of do in the cloud. So we have now with the sensors tab, we can also go and check out specific sensors, right? So here we have the test and measurement kitchen sensor, where if we click on it, it brings it up to show this kind of widget of the sensor itself. So what you can do here, you can download the data. So you can choose here what is the time interval where you want to download the data, what kind of metrics, and download the CSV file. Also, you can see the specific tags, and I'm going to talk a bit more about tags in a moment, but you can see where this sensor has been tagged. I use here in this example tags for floors. So at Softechnica we have 3 floors where we work, and different sensors are placed in different floors, and this is one way the tags can help. You can tag them by location, or tag them by any other property that you want to sort the sensors by. You can check out the alarms. So I can see here that 3 days ago the sensor already sent an indication that I have to change the battery, so I should probably do that. I can upload files, and that is new, and that is something that you also saw in that initial dashboard that I had configured, where I could just put pictures on the background showing, for example, if this is the kitchen, then it's nice to put the image of the kitchen behind it, so you can see it if you have the dashboard in front of you, or in some public location, or where you're seeing it every time. It's a nice kind of visual cue of you don't have to think about, okay, which is the sensor. You can see it on the background. And some basic configuration things regarding this sensor. So what is it called, what to which base station is it paired, what is the measurement interval. So as we can change at the moment of pairing the sensor, we can choose whether we want to pair it, whether we want the sensor to send the data once every 10 minutes, once every 5 minutes, once every 2 minutes, or once every minute. So you can see that also here. You can see when the last measurement is received. So as I have the interval for sending once every 10 minutes, and the last measurement was received 10 minutes ago, so I can assume that everything is working correctly, and I will shortly probably receive another measurement now. Sensor ID, what kind of tags. Here you can see the reason why it's saying that the battery is low. It is actually 2%, so I should probably change it relatively soon. So having this, you can also use this view to actually send it to your dashboard. So just by clicking it over here, it already nicely brings it in the dashboard. I can customize the dashboard via here, so I can add new tiles there. or I can do it like I did it beforehand. And now when I have this tile over here, I can also choose, different settings. For example, I want to see that image in the background. I want to see also the radio level and the battery voltage of that sensor. All of that I can change. Also the type, so horizontal sensor widget, meaning that the measurements are separated horizontally. I can have it also that it is like this, as not horizontally, but like a 4x4 thing. Let me 2x2, sorry. Let me show you also. So if I want to resize, move it about, I can put it wherever I want to. This is quite straightforward. Right, so that is about the sensor view. Also, what you can do in this view, you can edit the tags as well, but we will talk about tags in a moment. So also the next part, which already was from the beginning, but is worth mentioning anyway, is the chart tab. So here we can choose, which sensor we want to chart. We can have even several sensors. So let's have that kitchen sensor here as well. Let's see, do we have that data from this Aranet 4? Not from this one. Let's see. Yeah, so here we can have several sensors and even several metrics in the same chart. So as you see, on the left side you see the temperature, on the right side you see the y-axis for humidity. I can also choose different metrics, so maybe I don't want to see the humidity, but I want to see the CO2 from Aranet 4. Then I can click that in. For some reason this one is not showing the CO2 right now. Let's see. Yeah. So anyway, you can choose different times, of course, different time intervals where you want to graph it. So let's have previous day, and also in this view right here you can send that to the dashboard, and then you get it over here. And of course, as you as with the previous one, you can also change the size. It's quite straightforward, and this is the way that you can really go about and construct your dashboard to your preferences and see all the important things that you want on that. And you can construct several dashboards so that for every application you can choose the one to be shown. So moving on, alarms is a new thing that has been added since the last version. For the time being, we only have alarms for batteries, but do not worry, we have the alarms also for sensor readings coming quite soon. I will show you also in the roadmap part a couple of screenshots regarding these other alarms. But for the time being, here you can see all the alarms. So this is where for the time being the batteries are starting to die, and this is already fatal. I can filter here the alarms, so I only want to see the fatal ones, or if I only just want to see the warning ones. Also, I mentioned beforehand the tags, so I have tagged over here the floors, so I can choose to see, for example, that I only want to see the alarms of the 3rd floor, and it just shows me that only 2 sensors in the 3rd floor have the alarm. And of course, coming back to refresh it and to see whether or not something has changed. Right, so there is another view added, which is events. So if the alarms show the actual situation, then the events pane will show you when that alarm started. So as you see, active since, so the date and timestamp, and it also will show you when it is resolved, if it is resolved, right? So moving on to tags. So this is the view where we can set tags. Also, you can add new tag types. So for the time being, I also have, only one type, which is the floor. We can add, other types on top of that if we want to, right over here. You can put in the name, you can choose a color, and even put an icon to it to find it easier. And of course you can edit it from here. So you can see that on the second floor I have 3 sensors. You can add, other sensors on top of that. So or delete the tag over here. So essentially the tag can facilitate grouping the sensors, because there were a couple of questions regarding how easily it is to group the sensors and how easily it is to search these things. So I think the kind of tag principle makes it relatively easy and straightforward. So I truly invite you all to play around with these with the Aranet Cloud, either the demo account, or as you know, we also have the 30-day trial for every new organization. So you have full functionality completely for free for 30 days, and you can play around and see also all these applications where you could use them potentially. Then it is interesting to see the organization pane, the VAT numbers and things like that. You can purchase other services on top of that, so add extra base stations, add extra sensors. Since the last version we've also included credit card support, so it's not only you can not only do it in terms of invoice the payment, but you can also now pay it easily with the credit card, so that facilitates it substantially. Right, so you can see what is this license, what is your current license situation, and you can check out the invoices as well. And going to the settings pane, settings tab, you can also, of course, see here the base stations that you have. Currently, I have paired only one base station to the cloud, but registering a new base would be just like this, adding a new one. So as I already explained in the start, then you would go into the base station software itself and add these 2 points of information, right? And then there's another quite interesting tab over here called integrations. And to talk about integrations, I'm going to switch quickly back to the slides. So if we're talking about integrations, essentially there are 2 types in general. There are 2 types of integrations. So one is a push type of integration, which is where the Aranet Cloud is constantly pushing the data to a pre-configured third-party system that is just listening. And the other type that will be possible in the future is the pull type, when a third-party kind of system requests that I need this data for these specific sensors, and then only the cloud sends the data. So as I already said, this is The first one, where we have the push type integration, is available now. So it is available for all cloud users. However, the pull type integration is currently only in our roadmap, so that will be also developed relatively soon. So what does this kind of integration entail? So as a user, you can define the data sending interval, so how often you want the data to be sent. You can choose which sensor data you want to send, so you don't have to send it all. And you can of course control the data flow, and you can view logs. And with this integration also, it is the same thing is true as with the base station itself. So once you put it on the cloud, but you already have the data beforehand, it will send the missing data to your integration, right? So you will get also not only the current measurements, but also the history, and also if the connection between the base station and the internet, for example, goes down and it comes back after a couple of hours, the Aranet Cloud will refresh all of the lost data points also in this integration as well. Right. So we also kind of talked a little bit. We touched on these payments. So as already mentioned, we have the possibility to try the Aranet Cloud for free for 30 days. Then after that, the invoice is typically invoiced per organization, so not on the user level, but per organization. If you want to calculate the price regarding how much would the cloud system cost, so what you can do is actually you can go to our website. Let me quickly switch to that over here. So aranet.com/cloud, or here in the cloud tab. On the bottom of the page, you can put in the number of base stations, you can put in the number of sensors and push calculate, and you can thus calculate how much it will cost for you per month or per year having the cloud service. Right, so this kind of concludes the part regarding news and all of that which is new, and all of that which regards the cloud demo, and we will switch to the part that is possibly more interesting for many of you, looking at the cloud roadmap. So here is a little bit of a disclaimer that this roadmap is subject to change because everything here at Aranet is developing quite fast, and we are quite, let's say, market driven, and we will focus on the development where we see these kind of potentials, and where we see emerging opportunities. And this is also kind of a message for all of our partners, is that if you have some kind of a specific feature or specific requests, and you have an opportunity where there is substantial business beneath it, it is possible for us to adapt. We are quite flexible. Softtechnik as a whole is quite known for custom tailored solutions, and it's quite similar in the Aranet realm as well. So essentially we will typically, with the roadmap and with future development, really try to follow what the market is asking from us. So what is planned in the short to mid-term, next couple of months, what you will see arriving in Aranet Cloud? So One thing is locations, and by locations we don't mean, you know, maps. That will come, but that will come later. So locations are kind of the ability to kind of physically define a location for a sensor or a set of sensors, and then view everything regarding that location separately. So let's say, for example, that you are a retailer and you have several, you know, freezers, and you have several sensors in several freezers, but you don't want to, you know, think about the sensors. What you actually care about is your freezer. So these one freezer can be one location, and then you can go to that location. You will be able to go to that location in the location tab in the cloud and actually see, you know, all of the what's going on specifically there. So are there any alarms there? You know, what is the average temperature there? How you can specifically graph that location and look at the temperature of, you know, not that sensor but that freezer. So that will simplify a lot of, you know, every day-to-day kind of working with the cloud. Of course, as I already mentioned, the thing that is coming soon is also alarms regarding not only the battery levels, but also alarms about measurements. So this is how they will look like. So we are planning on having several level alarms. So for example, now on the base station you have 2 thresholds for temperature. So you either get an alarm when the temperature is too high or too low. In cloud there will be 4 levels. So, you know, temperature is getting a bit too hot, and then, you know, temperature is critically hot. And in this new view you will be also able to see, you know, the escalation level. So here you see kind of this arrow indicating that, you know, what has happened recently is that this alarm has escalated, right? So it went from going a bit too hot to actually really too hot. So, and it became fatal. If, for example, the alarm gets resolved, or is, you know, you're decreasing the temperature. So for example, you know, something went wrong with the fridge, you reacted to that alarm, now it's fixed, the temperature is going back down again. You will see this arrow pointing in the other direction, so you can see these indications on multiple levels. And of course, you know, this nice green tick mark for whenever the problem is solved. Right, so this is, and also there will be, you know, different views. Here is the table view, so just seeing these alarms in a table format, but also seeing it as a timeline. So this is also kind of a nice overview. You can see, you know, today, yesterday, all of that timeline. When did each of these alarms happen? And yeah, you know, of course, this is how it's gonna look. Also, there's also going to be possibility to see those levels. I know a lot of you have asked whether or not we can put, you know, these alarms as a line on the base station graphing dashboard, but there it unfortunately is not possible, because, you know, the base station is just, you know, one small computer with limited resources, whereas in the cloud we have effectively unlimited resources. And this will allow for, you know, having nice and fancy graphs. You can see this these threshold levels on the graph. You can see them quite intuitive and straightforward. Also with notifications, with alarms, what will come together will be notifications. So primarily it will be email. Afterwards, we are thinking about also WhatsApp and SMS, and or we will typically see what the market is asking from us. A lot of people nowadays prefer WhatsApp, and that it is kind of fine. So you know, you'll be able to get a WhatsApp whenever something goes out of spec. And also, as another thing in these alarms, alarm notifications will be also not web, but Wi-Fi relays, so that you can also, based on these alarms, control some Wi-Fi relays. So for example, the temperature has decreased too much, send a signal to the Wi-Fi relay to turn on the heating and things like that. This is still kind of in the idea phase, in the research phase, but this will allow for a lot more flexibility of the system as a whole. So new charts. We are planning to redesign these charts so that they look nicer. The current ones, as we've heard from a little bit from the market, they're not as as nice to look at as they are in the base station. So we will kind of redesign them. And also an interesting thing, and quite useful for many of you in different contexts, are virtual sensors. So what are virtual sensors? Virtual sensors will be the sensors where you can, let's say, put some kind of a mathematic formula on top of it. So that could be, for example, setting a threshold for the temperature sensors. Not a threshold, sorry, but actually just correcting, for example, for some temperature deviation or things like that. So for example, you want a virtual sensor that is showing +2 degrees for some reason. Or it can also be adding several sensors together. In the case of scales, in the case of weight, especially if you have 2 weight sensors, you want to sum them up. So you don't want to have 2 different readings. Or even if you're weighing something very heavy, you need 4. You can sum all of them up. So that will be just one virtual weight sensor, which will simplify things. You will be able to have the average values as well for the virtual sensors. So you have like 4 sensors in a freezer. You want to see the average temperature of the freezer, and then you can kind of put that in one single sensor. And also kind of things like integrals, and this is in terms of horticulture, when we're talking about PAR light, so photosynthetically active light, active radiation, where it's important to actually integrate this light curve. So you want to see what is the total light received, for example, over the day for the plant. So our light sensor currently shows the current value and the historical value of that received light. And what you want in horticulture, in these industrial greenhouses, you want to also calculate the total sum of what the plant has received over the period of the day. So you will be able to do that. So this is kind of mid to short-term roadmap, but we can also talk about the long-term roadmap, and this is more kind of let's say idea levels, and we're currently investigating. So one of the things that I already mentioned is room maps. So being able to upload an image of a room or a specific location and put these sensors in these locations, and you can see that on your dashboard as well. Pool type integrations, so what I already mentioned during the integration slide, so that the ability for the third-party system to request data, and the Aranet Cloud will send the data upon that request. Also things that we are talking quite often about, and what a lot of our customers, especially the large ones, are looking forward to is the Aranet private cloud. So having the capability of hosting the cloud on your own ecosystem. And this is especially important for retailers, where not only retailers, of course, quite wherever you have, big organizations, and typically a lot of them are a bit, they don't want to have their data somewhere here on, local Aranet premises or in the Azure cloud or wherever. They want to have that in-house. And the whole philosophy of the Aranet system is that you can have your own private network, and as an extension of that, you can have your own private cloud, so you can be sure of that this is, your own infrastructure, and nobody from outside is getting in. So adding that extra layer, of security and all of that. So that is coming as well. Third-party tiles. So we will have the possibility for our partners to essentially build tiles in our cloud, so we can function, as a platform. So if you want to, if you have a specific business case of having some kind of extra, added value of other things that could be useful to have in a single system, then that is what third-party tiles are about. So a bit more advanced user permissions, so user management, what kind of things users can and cannot do and can access. You will be able to manage the base stations from the cloud as well. So currently it is not possible. So you have to, if you want to change something about the base station itself, you actually have to physically go there and do that. In the future, that will change as well. Things like pairing the sensor, so you don't have to really think about even opening the sensor hub software. So if you have several base stations and you don't want to, mess around by going, to each and every base station separately, now once we have this functionality available, you'll be able to do everything from the cloud as well. Also, base station configuration backup in the cloud. So having, the whole, so the data is already backed up anyway. So this is a nice kind of thing that comes just naturally together with the cloud, because the way that the Aranet base station is built is that you have this redundancy. So you have the data both in the base station and on the cloud. So if anything happens to either location, you can still get the data. And in the future, what we're planning to do is also have this whole configuration, backed up in the Aranet Cloud. Because if, for example, something happens, you were, the place where you had the base station burns down, but the sensors are still working, just the base station is ruined. You can just get a new base station, download the configuration into that base station, and it will just carry on working like, nothing ever happened. So all of these steps, all of these new things that we are, developing and that we are putting extra on, and there's a lot of investment going currently into Aranet Cloud, because we see that as the main, one of the main features of the Aranet system, because as I said, the base station is kind of limited. If you have a piece of hardware, there is, we've already done quite a lot with it, but there's some kind of, let's say, logical limit that we could do with the base station. Otherwise, the base station will start to cost like $2,000 and nobody will buy it. So we see that, all of these next more advanced steps will be taken into the cloud. And but everything is done to kind of, facilitate the main kind of point of the Aranet system, which is about, bringing measurements in a straightforward and easy to use manner. And as I typically do at the ends of webinars and presentations, I kind of want again to re-emphasize our core value. It kind of ties together well with what William Thomson said more than 100 years ago, or more commonly known as Lord Kelvin, is that you can only improve what you can measure. And this is what Aranet is about, helping you to improve your setups, helping you to improve whatever you're doing by providing these measurements in the most easy, most straightforward, but also in the most functional way possible. So with that, we have gone to the Q&A session. So I will switch the screen here on my laptop to this screen. So let's see. Right. So Hanu asked about traffic light display. So that was some time ago, and I don't know which part are you referring to? Oh, okay. So alarms. Yes. So alarms will have this, as you already saw here already in this. Let me switch to that cloud tab. Here we go. As you already saw here in the alarm, the warnings are in different kind of colors, and in the future in the future kind of these. Let me bring back that screen with these with these ones. So you can see here this display. So the yellow as the traffic light display, right? So green meaning that it's resolved, so no more alarm. Yellow is this warning level, this between these two kind of different levels. So as I already said, there will be the possibility of two kind of level thresholds, and if it's between the first and second threshold, it will be in a yellow kind of display, and once it's above the second threshold, second from the top or from the bottom, it will be illustrated as red, so critical. Other questions, let me see. Question about location and what is the difference between the location and the tag. So location is actually a physical location of the sensor. So you don't want to think about, you don't actually want to think about, what is the temperature of the sensor, or what is the weight of this particular sensor. You want to see, the weight of your growing slab, or you want to see the let's say humidity in your specific classroom, or you want to see the temperature in this specific freezer, and you can operate with these things of graphing and things like that about this specific location. So one sensor can be only in one location. This is not quantum mechanics. They can't be in two places at the same time. Whereas with tags, it's just kind of let's say a group to which that sensor belongs. So one sensor can be tagged with several things, right? So it can be it can be the sensor of the second floor. It can be the sensor that I don't know, let's say which is on let's say a specific part of the building, or let's say this is the important sensor for some or other reasons. So essentially a tag is something that it's kind of how would you say that? It's kind of an indication about a certain group of sensors. So about the alarms and roadmap, how many thresholds will be possible as an upper and lower limits with different color severities. 4 levels of alarms, so 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, as you see here in the presentation. So here between, everything is all right, and then there's let's say moderate severity on both the hot and cold side, and then extreme severity also on both the hot and cold side. So as you see here, 4 alarm levels. So will statistical functions be available for virtual sensor output? Currently we have planned for, as I already explained, 4 different statistical functions, but we are actively listening, and if you have any suggestions for more, we can have more as well. But the ones currently that we are looking at for virtual sensors is the average, it is the sum, it is also this integral value, so integral over several time kind of steps, and which was in terms of the light, and also just a offset, so a static offset as well. But if you have any ideas for specific applications, not just something you can, I can also think of some formulas, but where you have, specific use cases for other statistical functions, we are very open to hear any suggestions or anything that you would like. Also, I kind of have to mention, I should have mentioned this a bit earlier. This is kind of a small. Yes, this is something that we'll ask all of the attendants for the webinar right after, once the webinar is over, like half an hour from now. You will also receive to your email a follow-up, and one of the things in that follow-up will be a small survey that we will ask you to kind of fill. If you have the time, of course, and if you want to help us improve the webinars itself, so to fill out this small survey regarding your experience from the webinar, and also your suggestions. That your question just reminded me about this. So the next question is how I can visualize the sum and or average of 2 more sensors in the cloud. So this will be available once these virtual sensors are available. So currently there is no possibility to do that, but it will. So in the short term, so within a couple of months, you will have this possibility to put in a virtual sensor, and then that virtual sensor will be your sum or average, so you will see it as a new sensor. But you'll set it up so that this specific virtual sensor will be the average of these 5 sensors, or it will be the sum of these sensors, or it will be this sensor plus 5 degrees. Right. So I have Aranet and non-Aranet sensors. Would be nice if I could publish readings from non-Aranet sensors to the Aranet Cloud, so I have data all in one place and combine values from all sensors. This is something that we have thought about, and this might be something more towards the long run. This is more, I guess, connected to that third-party tiles. So we would have to, discuss your specific application and figure out what is the best way to get this data. But as a general kind of idea, this is something where I guess we at least want to go, because we want to have the Aranet Cloud as a universal platform. So probably in the future. Currently, yes. Currently, only Aranet sensor readings available in that cloud. So, can alarms be sent to specific emails based on the alarm/sensor type or location? So currently, alarms are not being sent to anywhere, but this is in our roadmap, so it will be possible to configure these alarms to send to your specific email addresses and all of that. So yeah, the cloud alarm notifications will come with, let's say, at least in future iterations, it will come with this possibility to configure all of these things as well. Variants would perhaps be good. So I think that is referring to that. Which is referring to that previous explanation regarding the statistical functions. I do agree that variants might come in handy. It's nice to, if you have sensors in a location, you want to see, how varied are the readings. This is something to think about. It would be very useful if you could give an example where that variance is actually used, because it might be also just really nice to have. But if there is some kind of a, let's say, a specific example where you say that this is how I would use this variance function, this is how I would use this variance mathematical function, statistical function, then we will strongly consider, adding that. Let's see, there are new questions arriving. Let me just put on the screen, because we are nearing the end of the webinar. I will put on the screen, here's my email address and also our tech support email address. So if you have any specific questions, or your question was not really answered in the way that you wanted to hear, you can email me. If you have any technical difficulties setting up the cloud, or something's not working, we have a very responsive support department, which is also kind of really should be focused on as a benefit for the Aranet system as a whole, not only the cloud, because if you buy the Aranet base station sensor, the cloud support comes with that, and quite high level technical support, which not many wireless sensor providers can give, let's say. So that is a very also strong argumentation for the Aranet system. Let's see. Still about location in the roadmap. Is it perhaps a new field that user may fill per each sensor? It's more like, it's not a field per sensor, as it's more a as it's more a how would you say so you don't have to fill it in so every sensor doesn't have to be attached to a location, but let's say that you have, for example, a greenhouse where you are looking at, where you have 10 compartments. You don't want to think about, temperature of sensor 1, temperature of sensor 2. You most rather want to see, what is the light level in compartment 1, what is the temperature in that compartment, what is the average temperature, whatever. So you can, that is kind of an attribute of these sensors in a way, right? So and then each sensor can be attached to a single location. So another question regarding start and stop receiving sensor data. This is something new. I have not actually heard this question beforehand, but I also see that this is something that might be potentially useful. So this will be noted, and we can think about it in future versions. It will be also very useful to know what is the application, but yeah, currently there is no possibility from the cloud to start or stop receiving the sensor data. Yeah. So we are 4 minutes past the deadline. Well, it's not a deadline, of course. We already figured that this webinar could potentially go a bit longer. So you can still send in questions if you have any. I see that quite a lot of people are still watching now. I think it's even more than it was in the previous webinar. Even though in the previous webinar we had more people who signed up, I think that what was helpful was sending also the calendar type of invite also in the webinar follow-up and the registration message. So I guess a couple of people didn't miss it because of that. Hopefully that helped. As usual, we will have all of this recording available on our website, both on our website and in YouTube. If you have any extra questions, you can, of course, even after the webinar, contact me. As I already said, all of you that registered will receive a follow-up email within like 20 minutes or so, asking you to fill out this short survey. It will not take more than 3 minutes. If you don't, you can write, of course, longer if you want to, but typically it will probably take 3 minutes, but that will really help us out. If you have any suggestions, or if you have any things that you want to see in future Aranet webinars, because we really want to tailor this content to your liking, to our customer liking, because we live in strange times now. We cannot travel, we cannot meet you face to face. So we've really decided to kind of invest in all of these webinars and making this content a bit more higher quality. As you can see, now you not only see my presentation, but see all the setup, and we want to keep doing these things. So if there are any ideas what you want to see more about, there will be in future coming more webinars regarding to the COVID application of Aranet 4. That will also be announced in some time. There will be a small surprise regarding that, but I'm not gonna spoil it for now. Yeah, so we really want to make this content as engaging as possible with our viewers. So yeah. Thank you. So Max is writing, yeah, this show was very nice, and congratulations to all the staff behind this. So yeah, so thank you, Max, and thank you for my both colleagues here behind the scenes, also doing a very good job with everything. So I'm wishing you all, stay safe. And hopefully see you soon in the next webinars. Till next time, have a nice evening. Bye bye.